Okay, quiz. Now, I don't care whether you use the orange sheet or whether you use technology. I'm going to use the technology. I've set up the test so that you can finish it even if you're not, which means some of you that use technology, you might find the test goes quicker than you expected. I have to assume, and I have to, Alyssa, legally build into the fact that some of you may not want to use the graphing calculator and you're finding the z-scores all by hand. I think somebody the other day asked me, does that mean we never need to use the z-score equation? No, you do, because I still feel that I can either ask you to find a z-score or say to you, if you know 3, you know 4. Meanwhile, number 1 says, find the following areas. 1 mark each. I need to be able to interpret this. This is a z-score question. How do I know? Well, on your test, I made sure there's a 0 there for the mean and the standard deviation is 1. If you're not sure, if I don't tell you somewhere on the question that there's a different mean and a different standard deviation, Fallon will assume it's 0 and 1. So I'm going to go stat, dist, norm, NCD, var. The lower value is 0.83. The upper value is positive infinity, which I type like that. Is the answer 0.2033? Okay. 1 mark. B. B. Still haven't figured out when it does that and when it doesn't. The lower value is negative 1.33. Upper value is 2.10. Still the same mean and standard deviation. 0.8934, 0.8904. Yes? And just to make Nicole happy. There you go. I can also, on your test, give it to you instead of as a picture, as numbers, and expect you to draw the picture. The fact that it's a Z tells me it's a Z-score, mean of 0, standard deviation of 1. So I will always draw the little picture. Gulp. Mean of 0. And we have 0.44, which is right about there. Was it negative? No, positive. And 1.13, which is right about there. I'm looking for this area here. So lower value is 0.44, upper value is 1.13, mean and standard deviation. You get 0.2007. One mark. And then remember, we changed these numbers because I was doing the math in my head and I realized suddenly the numbers were too small for your calculator to display. So we changed them to this. What percent of the light bulbs will last less than 540 hours? So it's going to look like this. The mean is 600. 540, Zach, could be over here somewhere. And they want less than. This is the work I'm going to need to see. I need to see that you have written down lower is negative 10 to the 99th. I need to see that you have written down upper is 540. I need to see that you have written down this is 35 and this is 600. That gets you 1 mark. If you're missing any one of those, take a half mark off for each one that you're missing, which means if you're missing 2 of those, sorry, you get 0 out of 1. And then 1 mark for the actual answer, which is negative 10 to the 99th, 540, 35, 600, 100. You get 0.0432. I told you if you're using your calculator, you have to show me work. So yeah, on the test, same deal. Okay. Right, I said, if you're using your calculator, you've got to show me what you typed in. Yeah. Sorry, what? Full marks. 4.3%, sure. Okay. How many light bulbs? Okay, now I want to find 4.32% of the total number, 32,000. Zach, what does of mean? I'm absolutely going to ask you something like this because this is an actual useful application in math, which we don't do very often in high school, sadly. Exit menu, go to the run menu. 0.0432 times 32,000. 1,382. 1 mark. Turn the page. What percent of the light bulbs will last more than 630 hours? Once again, I'm going to Dulp. There's 600. There's 630 over there somewhere. Color it in. I want that area there. My lower value is 630. Upper, positive 10 to the 99th power. Mean was 30, sorry, standard deviation was at 35. And the mean was 600. 1 mark for writing that. Now, if you didn't write that and you didn't do it on this question, I won't take 1 mark off each time. I'll let you get full marks for this because I don't want to hammer you for the same error. That's just for you. Yes. Yep. And there you'll just have to show me a good picture and the Z-score, and I'll be looking for the work and finding the Z-score. Absolutely. Sorry, what? On the other one? Then we'll take off a half mark, not a whole mark. The probability, now, you can just write P equals, I'm going to do the proper mathematical notation. The probability that X is bigger than 630, I don't think I did that on the previous one, the proper notation, but that's okay. Menu, stat, dist, norm, NCD, lower value, 630, upper value, positive infinity, mean, same standard deviation. Do you get 0.1957? Now, if you use the orange sheet, by the way, your first 2 digits will match, your third one might, your fourth one almost certainly won't, because we've been more accurate, right? How many light bulbs? Well, it's going to be 0.1957 times, how many bulbs was there? 32,000? .1957 times 32,000. 6,262? 64, Mr. Dueck? 62? What percent will last between 618 and 630 hours? Okay. There's 600. There's 618. There's 630. And it looks like we're looking for that area there. So my lower value is going to be 618. My upper value is going to be 630. Standard deviation was 35. Mean was 600. The probability that we're between 618 and 630 is, no idea. (618, 630, 0.1078. And again, Sam, you could also do it as a percentage.
This is an announcement for all.
Mr. Dueck, why is this 3 marks? Well, I have to do it that way for the people that are doing it by hand, because if you're doing this by hand, I would give you 1 mark for finding that Z-score, 1 mark for finding that Z-score, and then 1 mark for finding the area between them. But if you got the right answer, you're going to get 2 out of 2 as long as you showed me this. If you didn't show me this, sorry, if you got the right answer there, you're going to get 3 out of 3 as long as you show me what you typed in if you use the technology. If you didn't show me that, 2 out of 3. Is that all right? Number 4. I like number 4. To me, number 4 is just a useful question in the real world. And again, Sam, too much of the math we do in high school is way abstract and useless. I like the fact that, hey, maybe some of you might own a business and wonder how to figure this out someday. Cut-right lawnmowers have a mean life of 12 years, a standard deviation of 1.2. The company believes they can offer a warranty on the shortest lasting 1.5% of their lawnmowers. So what we're saying is this. I don't know how long those lawnmowers last, but I want the area to the left to be 0.015. That's what 1.5% is. Oh, and I know the mean is 12. Here they're giving me an area. So what am I going to do here? Well, now I'm going to use that inv norm, going backwards. And inverse is another word for backwards if you're looking for a way to remember it. What do I need to see if you're using your calculator? You need to tell me which way the tail is. In this case, it's to the left. You need to tell me what you typed in for the area, which is 0.015. And you need to tell me the standard deviation, which was 1.2. And you need to tell me the mean, which is 12. And dist, norm, inv, tail is left. Good. Area, 0.015. Standard deviation was 1.2. Mean is 12. 9.4 years. Oh, it says to the nearest year. 9 years. If you got that, full marks. If you showed me what you typed in. If you didn't show me what you typed in, take off a half mark or 1 mark. But if you have done that earlier, don't keep taking off 1 mark for the same mistake. Is that okay? Yeah. Can you give yourself a score, please, out of, count them, 15, please. And once you have done that, making sure your name is on it, making sure your name is on it, making sure your name is on it, can you pass them inwards, please? So homework from last day, page 247. I had already assigned questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'll start out by saying, are there any of these that you could not get? Because there were some tricky ones here. And that's also my way of saying, if there's one that you didn't know how to do and you're too embarrassed to ask, you better believe the odds are pretty good I'm throwing that one on the test, because I know which ones I didn't quite explain that I left you to try and figure out on your own, and some of you would have, but I think some of you wouldn't have, so you can ask. Any. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. Also, a little notice, these answers have been calculated using the graphing calculator functions. So if you go from the Z-score tables, you might be off by a decimal place or two. Is that a hand up, Alyssa? No? Okay. Pardon me? Might. I'm going to be checking them for homework anyways on the Monday. So the other thing that I gave you was this thing. Okay. You're going to get almost all class to work on this. Not quite, because I have one more thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be giving you your trig tests back. But I'm going to start out by saying, because I did give you this the other day, was there any of these questions that you were trying? I tried to label them. So for example, number 9. Number 9 is tough unless you're clever with your graphing calculator, but I gave you a hint. That's a DULP, draw a little picture. 15 is a fairly tough question. A lot of these, though, you're going to find with the graphing calculator technology, they're pretty close to plug and chug. Show me your lower, upper, mean, standard. Show me what you've typed in, and I want you to get lots of practice in doing that. So, any questions from ones you tried? 31? 34 you meant? Okay. 34 is both easy and tough. Okay? Can you all open to number 34 in this great big reviews act that we're talking about? Day of the test. Okay. Number 34 says, in a population that has a normal distribution with a mean that and a standard deviation of that, determine the approximate percentage of the population that lies 3 left and 3 right. What this is really asking, by the way, is do you remember that 68, 95, 99.7 rule that we looked at? The answer is going to be 99.7, but I told you, I did, you don't have to memorize that. I said you can always work your way around it, and you can. You know what I would do? I would say, how about let the mean be, I'm just going to make up some numbers, 10. And the standard deviation, I'm going to make nice numbers up, be 2. What would 10 minus 3 times 2 be? Right? What would 10 plus 3 times 2 be? Do you see where I'm getting those numbers from, Kayla, or not? I didn't show on my work. I lost you. Okay. What did I just, so I can figure this out, what did I let mu be as a nice number? So this is 10 minus 3 times that. This is 10 minus 3 times that. Your lower value is 4, isn't it? Yes? And your upper value over here is 10 plus 3 times that. 10 plus 3 times that is what? It's really saying what's the area between 4 and 16 for those two numbers. Or if you made up different, if you'd let that be, for example, 8 and that be 5, you'd get different numbers for your lower and your upper, but that's okay. Or you could have let this be 0 and this be 1, which would also have been the standard normal. It's saying what's the area between those. Could you now find the area between those, lower, upper, mean, standard deviation? And you would get 99.7. That's why I said you can survive without the 99.7 rule just by making up numbers, 3 standard deviations left and 3 standard deviations right, and crunching it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any others?